Hi everyone, it's Mike here. It's time for the March mission inspiration. So first of all, let's have a look at the brief clip and then what I've done with the prompts. Welcome, Art Agent Specialists. Your mission for March, should you wish to accept it, is as follows. You must create an art journal page or canvas with the following instructions. Step 1. Apply a layer of black or white gesso. Step 2. Add white or black paint, the opposite of your gesso. Step 3. Add illegible scribbled words. Step 4. Add grocery receipt fragments. Step 5. Add patterned paper shapes, either punched, torn or cut. Step 6. Add a focal or collage image. Step 7. Make marks with a credit card or debit card. Step 8. Apply one highlight colour through a stencil. Step 9. Add journaling, quote or phrase. And finally, step 10. Add drips or splatters of metallic or mica paints. This message will self-destruct in 3 seconds. Good luck. So step 1 is to apply a layer of black or white gesso. And for this one I'm using black gesso from Dyno Media. And I'm just going to cover the entire of my page. Step 2 is to apply white or black paint, which is the opposite of your gesso. So in my case, I'm using white gesso on top of the black gesso. If you've used white gesso, you'll be putting black gesso over the top. I hope that's not too confusing. Step 3, add illegible scribbled words. So because I've used a black base with the black gesso, I'm using the Signo Uni-Paint poster paint pen. And as you can see, it's not the best for writing on this kind of surface, but because it's supposed to be illegible, which means you're not really supposed to read it, then it's absolutely fine for the job. Step 4, add grocery receipt fragments. So I'm just tearing mine up here and I'm going to just stick them down with matte medium from Mod Podge. And as I'm placing these down, I'm being mindful of leaving a space for my main focal image that I'm going to add later. I know how big it is against the page, so I know not to bother adding some other fragments of the receipts on the far right, because that's where my focal image is going to go. What's really interesting about these receipts is that they're thermally printed, and I would have thought that when you heat set the glue over the top that they would have reacted in a different way to what they actually did. I would have thought the paper would have turned a little bit black because that's how the print appears, but it didn't. Actually, what happened was the exact reverse. All the writing starts to disappear. So step number 5 is add patterned paper shapes. So I'm using a leaf punch from my stash and some wood effect paper, and I'm just punching out some leaf shapes and I'm going to stick those down. Now, can you see the writing on the receipts? It's almost disappeared completely. So I'm just sticking down the punched out leaf shapes, again being mindful of where my main focal image is going to go. So I'm trying to position them in the spots where they're not going to be obscured or covered over later on. Okay, I think that's enough of the leaves down there. I'm just going to bring out the heat gun and just go over those just to make sure that the majority of them are all pretty much dry before we move on to our main focal point. So this is my main focal point. It's a huge picture of a really cute cuddly panda that was sent to me in Happy Mail from Linda Bell, who attached a note to this when it arrived saying, "I would love to see what you do with this cutie." Well, now you know, Linda. So with this page, I kind of knew what I wanted to do with it, and finding the leaf punch was a bit of a bonus because I was originally going to just put some circles down there, but finding that meant that I could integrate the leaves and that kind of thing into the page, as well as utilise my quilt, which you'll see a little bit later on. So I'm just going to use my bone folder just to remove the majority of the wrinkles and the bubbles. I know you're bound to get one or two unless you completely cover the back in your glue first, but it's quite a large image and I thought I'd probably get away with it, which I have done, I think. So I'm just giving the main focal image a once over with some of the glue, and then I'm just going to bring out my heat gun and make sure it's all dry before moving on to the next step. So step number 7 is to make marks with a credit card. So I've got one of my old credit cards and I'm just putting out some of the white gesso that we used earlier on. And I'm just cleaning the spatula there because I know I'm going to also use some black as well. And I'm using this old credit card that expired a few years ago. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a border all the way around the page. And also bring some of those lines into the centre of the page as well. And now I'm going to repeat the same process with the black gesso that we also used at the beginning. So that's the Dina Wakley Media black gesso. So we'll just have a quick tidy up and a quick dry with the heat gun before moving on to step number 8. And step number 8 is to apply one highlight colour through a stencil. So I'm using the Laurel leaf stencil from Indigo Blue, and I'm also using Forrest Moss Distress Paint from Tim Holte and Ranger. Now for this, I'm just going to dab the paint through. I don't want it to be totally exact, and you'll never get it totally exact with one of these paint daubers. So as long as you've got the impression of leaves falling and growing, almost as though the panda is looking through foliage at us, then I'm going to be happy with it. But what I do is I make sure that I leave gaps in between so that I'm not smudging the stenciling that I've already done. When I get the heat gun on it, I will dry it, and then I will come back and fill in those gaps in between with a few more of the leaves, but I'm going to wait till they're dry before adding those in. So step number 9 is to add my journaling or my quote or phrase, and for that I'm going to use my Dymo Letratag label machine, and I'm just printing out 2 of my phrase blocks because my phrase and my quote isn't that long for this one. So I'm just going to print both of those, and because it's self-adhesive I can just peel the backing off and stick them directly onto the page without having to put any extra glue on. And there's my quote. Perfect for a panda. And just before I finish off step number 9, I'm just going to bring out my football pen and draw a little border around those word blocks there. Not going to go over the top with this, just literally just add a little bit of definition just to make them pop a little bit. But I think because you're on a blackish background that they do kind of stand out pretty much without having to go to too many lengths to make them really pop. So the final step, number 10, is to add drips or splatters with metallic or mica paint. You can use sprays as well, you don't have to use paint if you don't have any. So all I'm doing is just adding in some water to some Emerald City metallic green paint from Indigo Blue, and I'm just lightly splattering some of the paint around the page just as a little bit of extra decoration and to tie in the green colour from the leaves too. And it's at this point that I noticed that when I was smoothing down the panda's face, I did actually scratch some of the print off around his eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of pencil and my football pen, and I'm just going to add that black back in again just to restore his eye back to what it should be. And because I've used the black, then it does blend in pretty well. So all that I need to do now is to sign and date. So for that I'm going to use my white Signo Uniball opaque rollerball pen, and I'm just going to add my name and the date down the side there. And this page is complete for this month. Mission accomplished. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing what I did with the mission inspiration prompts for this month. Remember, if you want to play along, you can do so by just go along to the Mission Inspiration Facebook group, which the link I will put here on the bottom of the screen and also in the description area below the video if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're watching this on my blog, I will also put the link into the post below too. So that's all from me. If you've enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me. I will see you all again real soon. Bye for now.